What's going on? This is Theo, and today I'm going to share about how you can truly align your method as a wellness, leadership, and or expert in business and build a brand that has credibility, that has trust, that creates more impact, and as a lagging indicator allows you to really scale past multiple 6 figures to even 8 figures per year. We've already helped 203 coaches and consultants, conscious leaders, to create that exact result with 85% profit margins, higher retention, meaning retention of 1.5 to 3 years. And that has enabled our clients to get off this client acquisition or content hamster wheel, or living inside their DMs, being kind of glued to chained to their phone, not actually having a philosophy first business. And so before we get into the actual tactics and the strategies that are going to position you as a thought leader and as a world-changing impact facilitator, is a story. And today we're gonna really go into the flow state that I like to create in my videos, which is to start with a story. And this is so perfect to illustrate because I think that it's a huge milestone in my entire journey from growing up in Boston, Massachusetts, and growing up in more of a white community, and how that translated into a lot of younger identity crises that I think that some people go through in a major way when they hit their middle age. And it's interesting to see that in 2025, a lot of people are beginning to have those identity crises a lot earlier. And philosophy as to how you can also build a business model that's resting on the foundation of a state of mind is going to be something that streamlines scale and enables you to raise your standards that you've probably heard before, be able to help more dream clients and serve more individuals who are truly aligned with your next chapter as a leader, but really to raise your prices and stop underpricing because you're not quite sure about how to make sure that your dream client knows that you are the best solution for their more specific core problems as to why they're not the person who they need to become to deserve and earn the results. And I'm gonna use the principles of philosophy that I believe in as a faith-oriented founder so that you can kind of understand why I believe that this is the best way to scale in 2025 and to create more simplicity in your business model so that you don't have to actually work more than 25 hours per week. This is called the Sovereign Freedom Way. The Transcendent 7-Figure Conversion System enables our clients to be able to have a holistically scaling and expansive business model that allows their family to get fed and have a better impact lifestyle where things are simple, they make more money, but they don't have too much complexity and they're not becoming a slave to the business, but they're also making plenty of money, heaps of money. So what I'd like to share with you guys is the story back when I think this was 2016, and there was a moment when I was partying in a club in Miami, and I remember I was in the bathroom and I had just done I want to say 17 lines of cocaine, and it was wild. This was very delinquent. And I've told this story before, but I haven't really gone into the deeper elements of how God was trying to reach me and how I began to recognize the deepest depths of when you find yourself so lost, so confused. And I remember I was DJing, producing music for some really well-known producers. One of those guys, the rapper, was G-Eazy, and I actually went to college with him in New Orleans, undergrad, at Loyola and Tulane. And I remember a lot of the kids in class were making fun of G-Eazy because he was skipping class to go write rhymes. They're like, who do you think you are, bro? Think you're gonna be some famous rapper? What a loser, what a clown. And I was in a lot of his classes, and a lot of them didn't understand his work ethic, his discipline, and his passion, being some white kid who had this dream. He had this dream to write rhymes for a living, to express himself fully, and to be able to do it from a very humble upbringing. And so when I found myself in that club in Miami, I was looking in the mirror, and the hardest thing to accept sometimes is when we have so much certainty in our path. We have so much certainty in our direction. And I felt that in that moment, I finally had this lens taken off, this Rosetta Stone of what I believed was my self-righteous will, of the best way that I believe life should be lived. And it was a life in Miami that was full of great times I never want to have again, full of sex, drugs, partying, all this stuff. And so when I looked in the mirror, I could see that there was a deadness in my eyes. There were like bags under my eyes, and I think my soul was talking to me in that moment. It was telling me actually, yo, like, not only is this not it, but if you continue to walk down this path, it's not gonna be fun. This is not sustainable. And so in that moment, I just woke up to this realization that I had a lot of internal patterns around this wounded healer, around this overcomer. And I think that this is a very similar pattern that many coaches and consultants continue to replicate, but just in different ways, which is this kind of self-destructive avatar that I was subconsciously addicted to. And I didn't understand actually that that was something that continued to play out when I hit 7 figures in 2022 as a business coach and had this huge team, tons of chaos, tech overwhelm, trying to manage all these salespeople on my team, and it was just chaos. Like I was working 60 hours a week, getting back into addictions and bad things and just hiding all that. From the outside, everything looked amazing. From the outside, I was living the dream, traveling, buying nice cars, nice home, tons of living expenses. But deep down inside, I knew that this was not actual peace of mind. And that the motivation that I had was driven by a lot of fear, which led to burnout. The confidence that I had was blinding me from following my soul calling, my mission as a light leader. And that a lot of the principles that I think a lot of people get stuck in is what I want to talk to you guys about. And I want to give you a very practical way to leave this training on how I perceive my business model as a state of mind so that you can also replicate that and understand how that translates into you creating more scale without as much subconscious resistance. Because my clients understand that people don't pay for information, they pay for high-level implementation step by step, which is customized to their needs and desires, and also the subconscious identity transformation that is required to be able to regulate the nervous system so that there's a higher tolerance for how much love you can receive, how much joy you can receive, how much light you can hold, and how much fucking awesomeness, joy, pleasure, and gratitude that you can actually let inside of yourself. So come with me, and I'm gonna get started with this story, because when I made that moment with God, that commitment, looking up at the sky in that dark club of all this darker energy, this was a huge transition into my spiritual life. We call this like the billionaire spiritual life, where you go out and eat, pray, love, and you go travel the world and you try to find yourself again. And yes, that was a meaningful transition in my life, but it wasn't what actually got me to succeed and helped me to truly extract the highest level of value from the Bible, okay? I am a Christ believer, but I've also spent plenty of time in the New Age spiritual community, and I wanna share with you, because I know a lot of my audiences across social media are either high level in the New Age niche or belief systems, or very much so in the Christianity belief systems as well. And I wanna show you the upsides, but also the downsides if you don't have the discernment to understand the roles of those lanes in your life. And I hope that this resonates with you, some of this. I don't expect anyone to believe what I say. I tell you to test what I say, and then you can make your own decision whether or not you believe me. So let's transition, because I wanna fast forward to when I began to create more hypnotherapy clients and work with military vets, people who had PTSD. They were masking it with addictions, with strip clubs, pornography. They're masking it with cheating on their partner. They were masking it in many different ways with their successful corporate job, being a leader or founder at this big Fortune 500 company. And it was very alarming, actually, pretty shocking to see that a lot of these people still felt that they had outgrown that part of themselves. And so if you're sitting there wondering, okay, what is my next chapter as a fucking brand? And you want to lead at an elite level without necessarily alienating people to a level where you can still attract those high-level clients, those affluent clients who are low friction, and avoid attracting clients that are very high friction and need you to just deliver the world to them and expect the world from you. And you can avoid a lot of those heavier clients and really allow yourself to play from this elegance, from this luxury, from this ability for you to just glide and slide into high-level service and curating powerful communities. And you can see that everything that is created through the right timing, a certain level of patience with the right infrastructure, and the certain state of mind that a lot of people miss because of neuroscience. Now, I want to help you to see that I think that I've observed a lot of the people in the spiritual new age community, they tend to get lost in the sauce of these high vibration belief systems. And I understand why that makes sense, okay? After serving thousands of clients who were tech founders or celebrities or very successful people from the public eye, but yet they were heavy vibration. They were very analytical, very overthinking in terms of how they should, quote unquote, be successful and fulfilled and satisfied in the world. And they had no issue with manifesting millions of dollars effortlessly. And that flies in the face of a lot of the new age spirituality, which is kind of this flywheel in the mind, let's just say, this blind spot that people have where unless they're at a high vibration of joy, peace, love, and high consciousness, high frequency, they can't actually make a lot of money. And that's just simply not true. Same thing goes for my Christian community. And Christianity is beautiful. I was personally raised Roman Catholic, so I understand if that was also you. You may understand kind of the underlying frames that ideology takes when it comes to you joining some sort of religious establishment, and you may be coming to them with a certain set of core values, right, and morality. And then over time, having that Overton window get skewed. Overton window, what that actually is by definition, is a set of principles and judgments, and let's just say laws, okay? Where if you go beyond the window of that, what's acceptable to believe in, what's acceptable to think, what's acceptable to say and do, then that's wrong, okay? So in other words, there is a difference between what is right and wrong versus what is good and bad. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have a client that you would love to upgrade to another package, right? But let's say they don't have any money, right? Now, the good thing to do is to not charge them. That feels good, doesn't it? Right? Because you're being generous. You have the ability to contribute and add value to their life and have this non-transactional frame in your belief systems, in your philosophy about why you do what you do. But overall, in the long run, we all know that because we're in 2025, information, as time goes up, the value of information is going down. Why is that? Well, it's because the more people have access to a freebie, let's just say as an example, the less valuable it becomes. The value of information these days is pretty much obsolete with AI, okay? And it's only gonna get more influenced as every month goes by. So we have a moral dilemma because the right thing to do, let me ask you a question. If you give someone a UNICEF house, right? And they're homeless, maybe they're addicted to drugs. That may feel good, but is that the right thing to do if you know that because they're not getting educated, because they're not giving the healing that they actually need to change their behaviors? Well, how is that serving them? How is that helping them when you know over time, because they can't get a job, they can't hold a job because they're addicted to drugs, they're just gonna have that temporary experience of living in a house that they didn't earn the money for, to then only have that house seized from them by the government and then they're just back on the streets, okay? A lot of my work in addiction recovery had to do with understanding that you can't just put someone in a rehab facility and then expect them to go back to the same environment that they were in that triggered their cues for addiction, and not expect them to see, oh, you know, that was a thing for me. I had a lot of struggles with my past relationships as well sometimes, where women have taught me how to become a better person, how to be more in integrity, how to stop lying to myself, lying to other people. And that actually fractures your ego. It fractures your self-concept, and it eats away at your ability to trust yourself. And I know how painful and frustrating that is, because I remember there were times when I promised my partner I would stop smoking the tobacco, right? And then next thing you know, I would find the tobacco, okay, in the garage, and I would literally, I'm like, as I'm going into the trash can to go pick it up, after she saw me clearly put it in the trash, I felt like such, like a junkie, right? Like a crack addict. Oh, I'm going back in the trash can, and now I want status. I want money. I want sex. I want to feel good. I want good stuff. I'm hungry. I'm pissed. I'm angry. I'm happy. Ha ha ha. Oh, I'm sad and depressed. I'm a victim. Oh, now I want money. I want that. Right, yo. And so someone from a higher paradigm of leadership is just kind of looking at this person spinning and spinning and spinning in circles. And they're like, dude, that's crazy that people have this belief like, oh, I have objective perspective on objective reality. I have perfect discernment, and I don't have biases. I don't have the normalcy bias. I don't have the misweighting bias. And basically, essentially what these things are is when we push off things, right? We procrastinate, AKA self-sabotage. And we believe that world events, tech advancements, economic shifts in the market won't affect us. They'll affect everybody else, but not us. And this was my belief too. I was like, well, I can just let this one reach in the trash can for my past self addiction, right? The self-destructive artist, because it's just one more experience of me in shame, right? Like reaching in the trash can to go back to the addiction, right? It would get to the point where literally I would throw it, like when we were traveling across the world to Costa Rica, Europe, Jamaica, all these different places. And like, no matter how far I had hid that addictive substance, like whether that be hape, okay, I had transcended from the industry, from doing cocaine and Molly. I never did heroin, nothing that crazy. But it just transitioned to something a little bit less harmful to the body and to the mind. But still, yet it was still a vice, right? It was still a secret vice. The reason why I'm telling you this is because there is a vulnerability that I think that a lot of business owners and founders and CEOs have, especially coaches and consultants who have good hearts and they want to help people, is that the thing about business is that there are certain ways that it's structured, very similar to how the court system and the judicial system is structured. So the actual court systems, okay, are actually designed based on the principles of the Bible. So the downside and the vulnerability of people who are what we call Bible thumpers, Jesus, take the wheel. I don't have to take action because I'm empowered with the light of Jesus, right? And it's kind of like a sugary fantasy. Whereas the Bible, if you really get into the core principles of that, and you also have the courage to study other occult things, such as Antichrist, to gain a deep accuracy and discernment of what the Bible is trying to help you to understand on a core level about the reality of life. It even says knowledge is truly what we're here to extract from the wisdom life of trees. And so with that deep root of wisdom comes some pain, some pleasure, but a higher purpose for who we are and why we came here. And so people don't understand that just knowing about the Bible isn't going to solve their business problems. They would also understand that the judicial system is structured on principles of the Bible. So in other words, the Bible is understanding, helping us gain a deep spiritual understanding of these higher realms, okay? These upper realities where things are orchestrated from millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years ago. And if you don't understand that God has a certain voice and personality, Jesus has a certain voice and personality, the Son, the Holy Spirit, has a certain voice and personality, it will be very difficult for you to understand how these voices play different roles to help you to glide your consciousness and presence into seeing the true middle path. And so when you have knowledge, you'll understand that that knowledge is required for you to have results in the physical plane, in the earthly plane, okay? And one of the downsides also of these books is that when people don't see that that Bible is meant to help you to see that there's ideologies that have people judge non-believers of Jesus or non-believers of Buddhism, that helps you to see that there's a divide and conquer aspect where if you are against others and you think you're above others because they believe in a different faith, because they believe in a different philosophy, that's a very powerful way to see your own self-pride. And that's me also recognizing that in myself. So, how does this apply to your business? Okay, how does this science of scaling and making sales apply to your business? I like to use that metaphor of a temple, a transcendent royal wealth temple. And right now we're gonna build this wealth temple. But I need you to understand that this is a structure, this is not reality. This is the map, but this is not the territory, okay? Everyone's got different priorities in their mind. And generally speaking, they just don't have the right priorities for the exact paradigm that they're in. Think of it this way, right? At the bottom of society, you have the derping society where there's a lot of people slipping and bleeding. And they just need a life raft. They just need a hand. They just need a hand job from a comfort creator like Jay Shetty to call you up at night and say everything's gonna be okay. And everything's okay, you know? Don't change it all. Don't take any ownership of why you created the results. Yes, you're an expert at creating your reality, but I don't know better than you do. You know better than I do, okay? It's not your fault. Just stay the same, right? I know that that's not something that you wanna hear. I also believe that maybe that's not something that you want to necessarily promote in your marketing because you know that you'll get outcompeted by those gurus, those comfort creators, those kumbaya creators, because their brand equity is much bigger. They have a bigger audience, they have bigger capital behind their business. And because they're scaling on high volume, low ticket, they will always outcompete you for the derper clients. Does that make sense? Okay, anyone who's making less than $8,000, $10,000 a month, they're generally gonna be in that society that just needs to cope through reality. They just need to cope through life. They can't get their life handled, and yet they seem to know everything. They already know everything. So there's no advice that I have for that person, okay? And if you're anything like me, you know that you're only the right fit for the exact right person, and that you also have had experiences where maybe your business coach or business consultant or mentor had slightly different belief systems or philosophy of you, just a little bit, but you gain tremendous value, okay? Example is how I've hired people who are very sharp, entrepreneurial and transactional and are only about getting the result, only about winning, only about solutions orientation and facts. But I've also gained a lot of value and transformation in my conscious and subconscious belief systems and my infrastructures of business models by taking an approach of lean back, be the elegant frequency, never chase, and learn how to vibrate at the frequency of pure fucking love, pure fucking family, pure fucking vitality, where you are so locked into the present moment that there is no attachment. There's just pure bliss and the action for the action itself. It's called what we call process orientation. Finding joy in the dance of growing your business, finding joy in the dance of dating, finding joy in the dance of having children, being in nature, allowing yourself to receive the now. So, the temple is a great metaphor to help you to understand how you can build out this philosophical structure for yourself so that you can see that if you become my client and you end up paying me the 7K deposit for our elite, or you end up paying me the 50K deposit for my one-on-one, or you end up paying me the 5K deposit for Align 20K cohorts. We have different cohorts. We have QR hypnotherapy certification, we have Align 20K, getting to your first 20K, 30K months. And then we have scaling from 6 figures to 7 figures, which requires a completely different approach. So in other words, what got you to 6 figures will never ever get you to 7 figures. You need better systems, automations, better delegation, and way better transformation in who you are as a founder. So you're not overwhelmed in delivery and fulfillment. And you can actually lean back and allow the business model to actually scale for you by having a content system that filters out the tire kickers and brokies and filters in the qualified, elegant, low friction, coachable, action-taking executor clients, the ones that are just absolute fucking dream clients that you can go create wins with. We even have offer partners where I have created co-creation offer partners with my current clients, and they have literally made 5x to 10x their ROI on their coaching investment, their tuition with my consulting, which is so fucking hilarious because I know obviously what they're doing. They're getting leverage in the relationship, and I'm like, fuck yeah. I don't need the money. Let's go make some money together. Let's go fucking smash it together. Let's understand that building community across the world, like we have in 22 countries, takes patience. You can't buy people. You can't be transactional all the time. You can't be chasing the dollar sign because you're only gonna end up empty, confused, and isolated. I only know that from experience, okay? So, I want you to imagine in your head that you have this beautiful wealth temple that you are building. This takes literally 30 minutes if you pay attention and you actually focus and lock in. The first aspect of the idea of the temple is deciding and committing to your mission or your philosophy. My mission and philosophy is that I am a force of light and guidance for the greatest good of thought leaders, experts, and healers on the planet. I'm here to be a force of guidance to unlock people's voice and allow their soul to speak powerfully and potently. Now, that may not be the same philosophy as you. That love-based mission may not be your mission. But it's important to actually decide on what that is because clarity creates speed. People are not missing information, they're overwhelmed with information. What they need is clear context, okay? Clear context. And what they need is to realize that their standards are so low that if they were to 10x their goal and aggressively shorten the timeline as an exercise to shift their neurochemistry, they would understand that they're optimizing for a lot of things that don't even need to exist. And so this is why we're creating this, because I think a lot of people, because they're at such a low paradigm of logical, reasonable goals, they're unable to actually self-delude themselves into these impossible goals where they begin to see that they don't have the energy, and then they're blaming, I don't have the time, I'm too busy, it's just not comfortable, I need to be perfectly aligned, I'm not ready. But my clients, my community know that when you decide on your raised prices, when you commit to sitting on the throne and making that decision now, that actually gives you the reward of being ready. Invite you to sit there and think about that. Do you have people in your life that you have acquaintances, you're able to make transactions with them because maybe you don't want to deeply, intimately connect with them? Such as like a club promoter, right? I have friends who are club promoters, or they can get me access to different events across the world to network with high status people. But they may not have the most healthy lifestyle habits. Does that make sense? Like, they're not someone who maybe I want to build a deep, deep connection and relationship with, but I'm not gonna actually just shut off that opportunity to build some acquaintance with them. They're just gonna be on that outer circle. Then you also have your real, authentic business circle, where you're gonna go a little bit deeper and share more vulnerably with people because they've earned that relationship just like you've earned their business, okay? Then when you get into that little inner circle, there's your non-transactional friends, the ones that you just kick it with. You can just drop the shtick of being this professional expert, and you can just be your fucking clowny ass human self, the one that farts, the ones that takes a shit, the one that sees that trauma is just shit trying to leave your consciousness. If you would just realize that you're the butthole, okay? You're not the shit, you're the butt. What does that mean? It's an obnoxious metaphor, a cartoonish metaphor that I hope you don't forget for the rest of your life, this short life. So that you can see that your parents, of course, they didn't know any better. They didn't have the spiritual alchemical tools to be emotionally intelligent, to be somatically trauma informed. So they had to take their pain and confusion that they lost power to their own ego, to take that out on you as a child. This goes back generations. And this is, again, why the neurochemistry of how this takes place in people's consciousness, they may not even see the label because they're stuck inside the bottle. It's the same thing that I see with my successful friends that I've met, where I just invite them to go skiing in Boulder, Colorado. I invite them to go to Hawaii on a nice hike. And the whole time that we're going, and I used to be this way too, they're only thinking about the fact that this is a waste of time. Why are you laughing so much? Why are you just wasting all this opportunity cost on enjoying life itself? We gotta go crush it. We gotta go scale. We gotta go keep stacking that cash. You get my point? So that's an entrepreneurial hustle culture, flywheel, classic bro scaling that doesn't enable people to see that they are fucking a slave, but just in a golden prison. So they can justify that. Just like low-level people, they justify their results. They justify their results. Oh, you know, it was not my fault. I invested in that and nothing works for me. Yeah, that program didn't work for me. But guess what? Every single investment that I've made, I am so fucking appreciative. I took a gold extraction nugget out of that and I got exponential ROI. Maybe it wasn't in cash flow, but maybe it was in a painful lesson that took me years to learn, but God was trying to speak to me in mysterious ways and help me to stop being so fucking needing to control how I create my self-liberation, okay? So now that you have this concept of the temple, you need to decide, in my opinion, I had to decide, what are my core pillars, okay? The core pillars that create the foundation of your temple or castle. And without this foundation, you're gonna end up scaling in the wrong direction, okay? You're gonna end up scaling something that you feel like is moving forward, you feel like sales are good, but really they're not. They're absolutely not, because they're either inauthentic to who you are as a soul, or they're just not effective in the marketplace, okay? Does that make sense? So in the eyes of God, the sunset is more valuable in his eyes, but to the marketplace, the Lambo obviously has more value than the sunset, okay? Just want you to get some perspective about who you're learning from, to get some context. Now, if my core pillars, non-negotiables, are love, God, health, and family, my question to you is, write those down. What are your 4 pillars that hold up the temple, your elegant luxury brand temple? The next evolution of who you're becoming as a leader, as a trailblazer, as they say, as the boss babe femme queen say, right? Now, what's inside of the temple is important, because without the walls of the temple, the 4 walls of your temple, how are you going to prevent people from walking in the temple with dirty shoes, smelly feet, okay? Shit-stained pants? Well, you're not. You're gonna allow that to just break your boundary, and AKA the price that you charge is a boundary for access to you, right? Access to your wisdom, access to your frequency, your energy, okay? That's what it means to have this business model be locked the fuck in, to be potent, and to be like iron. Now, those boundaries are things that you qualify in and out of those 3 circles, those 3 rings. And if you need to rewind the video to understand how you can curate these circles, you can have different ways that you can navigate relationships and know what a circle people can transition to or stay in or leave the circle just based on their behaviors, okay? So in other words, when I listen to someone speak and I hear their words and their thoughts, I understand their worldview, their framework of how they perceive reality, okay? Then from there, I understand by their behaviors who they actually are and how deceived they are by believing that they see reality. Nobody sees reality. I am so ignorant. I am arrogant. I am stupid. You get my point? It's a joke. It's a joke. But that helps me to not be vulnerable to these flywheels of self-deception in my mind. Because when you see the light, you make an interpretation, and through the 5 senses, that light hits your retina cone, for example, and then that creates an interpretation, a meaning about your self-concept. This is what we're talking about, your self-concept. Nobody sees reality. If anyone says that they see reality clearly, run away. That is the biggest red flag that you will ever run into people. Now, I try to be rational. I try to see reality clearly, but even for someone like me, who's been in the game for over 15 years, still believes that they don't see reality very clearly at all, okay? So, now, when we look at the boundaries, that's where you have certain people in your life who hold you accountable, who hold you to a higher standard than you hold yourself, okay? If you want to sell high ticket now in this day, people pay for who they want to become, who deserves the results that they've been wanting, and also the actual execution and implementation, not the information. As time goes on, like I said, information value goes down, okay? And it's only gonna scale that parabola, the long tail phenomenon in marketing. If you wanna look that up, I highly suggest you looking that up in Google. So, inside of the temple, we have the what? We have the ceiling. We have your standards. We have what you feel entitled to in a healthy way, okay? Because you're willing to take action. When you raise that standard, the floor is gonna come with it. And only when you raise the standard and the floor comes up with it, will you understand the scaling mindset mentality of the G mentality, where you begin to see how much noise and bullshit and chaos and distraction that you are tolerating, types of content that you're consuming, types of food you're putting in your body to become fat and an undisrespected member of society. I'm not saying I have any judgments about you about that, but it's just an observation that I have. People who can't control their eating habits. I get that. I understand your pain. I get it, okay? I'm a human being. I'm not perfect by any means. So when you raise your floor, you'll understand that that is a practice to force your mind, your neurochemistry, to be shaped so that you can dial in the needle movers and eliminate the things that do not need to actually be optimized or even exist at all. Even Elon Musk said, the smartest engineers' vulnerability is that they're optimizing for things that should not even exist in the context of building and scaling a business idea. So now that we understand the higher your standard, the floor gets raised, you have to understand also that inside of the temple of transformation becomes this powerful code. And the codes are the transcendent 7-figure system that I created, okay, just as an example, which attracts and converts pre-sold leads, ready to buy leads through YouTube Organic and Instagram, stories and feed content. And this is a content ecosystem that scales out your visibility of high quality eyeballs, not just fake ass bot eyeballs, but real ideal lead quality followers, and gets people into the top of funnel through that system that we have to have that content magnetize lead flow. From there, you need a transcendent offer, one that positions you as the best solution for your dream client, someone who's looking for a solution now, has a problem that you can solve, is financially qualified to pay you high ticket, and who's actively seeking a solution and is willing to be wrong about some things to collapse their timeline to the results that you can help them to get with your access, okay? The next code is the subconscious belief systems that you have. What is the code of values that you make decisions through, the filters through which you make decisions through? For me, it's integrity, joy, authenticity, empathy, liberation, expansive connection, community, and vitality, okay? My question to you is, what are those core codes that you live by? Because those are gonna make a massive impact on how you make moves and decisions. Now, we give our clients AI prompts so that they become transcendent executors, so they stop talking about ideating scale to $1 million a year, but they actually experience the reality of that result. Does that make sense? So there's a difference between people who idolize things in the sky and people who are able to bring a vision to life, to actualize that into results, okay? Now, there's a way that you can be process-oriented, okay, and not be driven by just egoic desires. But it's worth mentioning that you deserve to have it all. You deserve to have a healthy body. You deserve to have an awesome physique. You deserve to have 10x the energy. You deserve to have a deep connection with your family and kids. And you also have the ability to also build out this beautiful, harmonious relationship in your love life while making tens of thousands of dollars every single week or every single day. We have a bunch of clients. My client Hannah, she's been making 50K weeks, working about 25 to 30 hours a week, based on this business model, okay? Now, when it comes to the bottom aspect of building a movement, okay? Having a movement where you attract high frequency individuals and you can find common synergies where you stop getting distracted and you can really commit to being fully present in your body as you allow a deeper, more expansive window of safety with receiving and holding more success, more money, or deeply receiving more love, or deeply feeling safe with having more health and connections without freaking the fuck out, okay? People who have PTSD, for example, they have a 3 out of 10 tolerance window of if they go past that, they freak the fuck out. They get this range of emotional volatility because that's too much light for them. It's too much awesomeness, it's too much fun, it's too much abundance, it's too much money, it's too much pleasurable lovemaking. It's just too fucking awesome. And this is again why people push things off, they self-sabotage. It's not their fault because they don't even know they're doing it to themselves. But this is a deep principle that you got that I highly encourage you to understand from neuroscience. Now, people who are acclimated, we help our clients to get to that level of 8 to 9 to 10 out of 10 when it comes to mastering their nervous system window of tolerance. They begin to feel that triple the sales, 10x the energy, 10x the focus and flow state and creativity and resourcefulness is neutral actually. So let me ask you a question. You've been stuck at like 30, 50K a month, okay? There's a version of yourself right in this moment, believe it or not, that is already having clients wanting to pay you, pay in full, through the DMs on an offer Google Doc, 20K for your offer or 50K for your offer. And if you doubt me, I post my client results and my own results publicly on Instagram, on my stories. You can see all of that on my YouTube, okay? You don't need a website. Emails are pretty much dead at this point. Ads have become more fast changing and evolving because the shifts in the trends of what's working now for ads. We help our clients to do a low cost ad, just one simple content asset that's pre-structured to position their authority. And that's what builds out the lead flow, in case you were wondering. But when you actually understand that there is a science to the art of business, you begin to actually have fun, okay? And God forbid we play by the rules of the Bible, which is entering the kingdom of heaven, bringing heaven to earth by being in the form of someone who is playful and curious. And I think that if more people just stop giving a fuck so badly, and the fact that even if you do succeed at a high level, no one cares. No one cares about your change more than you do at all, okay? Not your mom, not your daddy, not your cousin, and not even your partner. In fact, I've worked with a lot of clients where their partner, they're afraid that they're gonna outgrow them, or that if their partner is investing into their business success, that they're gonna have their partner lose hope in them and feel like they're settling, okay? These are real, intimate, self-sabotaging fears that my clients instantly transmute because they're all rooted from ages 0 to 7 or even beyond that. But the point is, there's enough fucking trauma for you to deal with from this life. You don't need to worry so much about the past lives, okay? Just trying to be practical here. So just to recap, I wanna help you to see that if you don't have those walls, if you don't have that like moat that is protecting your time, protecting your energy, there is no fucking way that I would have built and made multiple 8 figures as a coach or in a hypnotherapist, okay? Without those clear boundaries in my life, without being able to say yes and fuck no, and feel really good about the fuck no without an explanation, okay? This does not mean you're a cold-hearted ice bitch. This does not mean that you're a fucking douchebag. What it means is that you just respect your business and yourself to the level where you're not willing to tolerate anything less than who you really are at the core. You're getting paid to not just exist as you're told online all the time, but you're getting paid to let your soul speak through your core, true, gold voice. So thank you so much for watching this. Just remember to actually do the work, okay? I encourage you to do the freaking work and build out the 4 pillars. What are the 4 non-negotiable pillars of your life? What are the walls, the boundaries that you have? What is the moats that you have of what do you say no to, that you don't tolerate, okay? Super important to have clear qualifiers for your sales process in your life, because life is sales, life is influence, life is self-hypnosis. Everybody's in a trance. Everybody's in subconscious autopilot. The question is that leading you to a satisfactory result across all contexts? If it's not, if we don't change, nothing changes, okay? And if your prospect knew exactly how to get the results they've been wanting, they would have done it by now, okay? Super basic common sense. And if you're living in Western culture, man, my heart goes out to you. It's hard to find people who have common sense, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant by saying that. I'm not above or below you. But one thing I do know is that there's a resonance that you can hold. Sales is a frequency. And when you maintain that frequency, you help people you help to shine a mirror in your content. And you scale that. You scale that with 1/10 of the amount of content most people flood the internet with. And you make much more money than them because you're not trying to force outcomes by efforting more or trying more or investing more hustle and time into trying to get the results that you want in your business. Instead, you're making smart moves so that when you have that first 100K month, not a big deal. When you lose that 20K in learning what's working for ad spend, which we suffer for our clients, we test these ads for our clients so they don't have to waste 20K to find what's working in the ad market, well then you don't bat an eyelash. It's just water off a duck's back, okay? So you can have the honor and privilege to suffer for your clients instead of just being perceived as this infinite, untouchable floating butterfly of rainbows and just magic light codes. But your clients can feel a depth to you. So I'm not wearing my cross right now. I'm not wearing this cross right now. But what I'll say though is that when you experience the breadth of life, infinite creativity, hilarious sense of humor, you've got the charisma that you can unleash inside of you to unlock your voice, to step into a higher expression of who you are. If you would accept yourself subconsciously at a deeper level and own the shadow, dance with the shadow. But you can only do that if you understand that you are the leader and the mentor that you've always been looking for. You are the loving parent that you've always wanted. The loving mother, the loving father, the best friend, the fucking lover. Did I say that? Yes, I did. But you are the one who you've always been wanting the support from, okay? So there's a point at which you will reach, and I'm far from where I want to go. I just got started, where you begin to not outsource your power to other people just because they can fake some clout on social media, okay? You can actually get to a transcendent level where there's so much fun in the joy of speaking, so much fun in having this joyful urgency to be in constant flow state where your environment is designed to always be just tapped in, where you gain energy from work and you collapse timelines through systems, that you can actually see that that's the money. We're out here in nature. My boy Shooter Colton is behind the screen. Shout out to you, bro. And if you have any questions, I want you to just let me know your thoughts in the comment. Let me know what clarity this gave you for your wealth temple, your transcendent wealth temple, so that you understand the codes inside that are certain principles that when people enter the kingdom, they enter the temple, they understand that there's a certain code that they have to abide by to get the most value out of it. And when you have that moat, you have those boundaries, you have that higher standard, that higher ceiling, and the floor is elevated because it elevates your essence. You begin to be unfuckwithable at a spiritual level because you're playing by the design of the architecture of what creates success in this earthly plane, but you're also allowing yourself to tap into these higher realms where you're bringing these things to light. You're bringing them to light so that you don't always have to be pushing yourself into suffering and pain unnecessarily just to prove a point or overgive to just not lose love. Does that resonate with you? So just do me a favor and just share this video with a friend if you feel like this would impact their life. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to send you another AI prompt that we've been giving for people to actually tap in to their spiritual journey as an entrepreneur in this portal that we find ourselves in. But just by the way, your mind is the fucking infinite portal to expansion to the all that is. And just DM me the word portal and I'll send you that ChatGPT prompt so you can understand where your blind spots are, where you're lying to yourself in terms of the standards you're setting for yourself that are so much beyond what you may assume that they could be, and how to properly set goals for yourself so you can understand how you can scale. Okay, so everything I do for my clients is tailor-made based on what they're at and what they need and what they got going on already and what is working for them. Believe it or not, yes, there's things that you need to double down on that you wouldn't know because you may not have the data to back it up. There's things that our clients are doing great that they need to scale up, and they need to eliminate things that they just heard will work, but they're just spinning in a circle, busy work. So thanks for watching. This has been another video. Hope you like it, and we will talk to you soon or see you at another live event this year. Peace.